the 151st Inter-Parliamentary Union Assembly.
Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you are watching the China Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines of the hour. US President Donald Trump is set to test his deal-making capabilities as he leaves for a highly anticipated trip to Asia, where he will attend numerous summits in a region battered by his hardball trade policies. His 5-day tour will start in Malaysia with stops in Japan and South Korea and will be his longest journey abroad since taking office in January. US and Chinese officials have started talks in the Malaysian capital Kuala Lumpur on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit to discuss a trade deal ahead of a face-to-face meeting between their respective presidents later this week. This comes as the US president threatens Beijing with new 100% tariffs, while China imposes restrictions on rare earth minerals. As he departs for his Asia tour, US President Donald Trump expresses a desire to meet North Korean Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un while in South Korea. Trump spoke fondly of Kim, whom he met in 2019 during his first term, adding, "I get on with him very well." Thailand's Queen Mother Sirikit has died at the age of 93 after decades of charming global media, revitalising the Thai silk industry and supporting rural development. The Thai Prime Minister has cancelled his trip to the ASEAN summit following her passing. Kirill Dmitriev, the Russian president's special envoy, says that Russia, the United States and Ukraine are close to reaching a diplomatic solution to end the war in Ukraine. Speaking to CNN after arriving in Washington for talks with the United States, he said that a Trump-Putin meeting had not been cancelled but merely moved to a later date. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has accused the United States of fabricating war after it sent the world's largest warship towards the Caribbean in a major escalation of its military buildup in the region. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier, which can carry up to 90 aircraft, to move to the Mediterranean Sea last night. The United States has struck another vessel in the Caribbean, killing 6 people it labels as narco-terrorists, the US Defense Secretary has said. While Hegseth did not provide any evidence that the vessel was carrying, a video was published on social media and the Defense Secretary has stated that the vessel was operated by the Tren de Agua gang. The United States has imposed sanctions on Colombian President Gustavo Petro over accusations that Bogotá has failed to stop the flow of cocaine into the United States. Trump has previously called Petro an illegal drug leader, a claim that the Colombian president strongly denies. Now, our top story this hour. US President Donald Trump has embarked on his tour of Asia. He is set to begin his trip on Sunday at a meeting of Southeast Asian nations in Malaysia before flying to Japan to meet its new Prime Minister, Senai Takagi, early next week. President Trump has also said that he would like to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during the trip. The most important stop on his visit will come at the end of the month, when he is expected to meet Chinese leader Xi Jinping at the APEC summit in South Korea. During this much-anticipated meeting, President Trump's deal-making capabilities are to be tested. Trump has recently offered to lower tariffs on Chinese exports to the United States, but insisted that Beijing also must make concessions, including resuming purchases of US soybeans, curbing the flow of ingredients used to make the opioid fentanyl, and lifting restrictions on the export to the US of rare earth minerals. The leaders are also expected to discuss Taiwan amid concerns of a Chinese invasion. Taiwan relies heavily on the United States for defense, and President Trump might also raise the issue of Chinese vessels continuously entering Taiwanese waters. US President is also to raise the issue of Jimmy Lai during talks with President Xi Jinping. Currently, a meeting is underway in Kuala Lumpur, where the US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, US Trade Representative Jameson Greer and Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng are discussing the issues and agreements to be addressed and signed during the leaders' meeting. An interim agreement is expected to be signed, which might include relief on tariffs or China committing to buy soybeans and Boeing airplanes. Earlier in 2020, Beijing re-engaged on similar promises in a deal with Trump. Before leaving, President Trump made a departing statement. Let's listen in to what he said.
Well, I'll be talking about Taiwan. Won't be going there, but I'll be talking about it. Won't be too far away. A lot of respect for Taiwan, and it's on my list. I'm going to ask. Look, they're big enemies, so we'll see what happens. You know, Jimmy Lai, and President Xi are big enemies, but it's been a long time, and it'll be on my list.
We move on to further diplomatic developments, where the European Union and Chinese officials are set to meet in Brussels next week in a bid to ease tensions amid growing concerns over China's expanded controls on rare earth exports that could severely impact key EU manufacturing sectors, including the automotive industry. European Trade Commissioner Marcos Šefčovič and Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Mentao agreed during a 2-hour video conference on Tuesday that Brussels will host Chinese officials for trade talks. The European Commission has said that there will be a set of in-person and virtual meetings next week under the expert control dialogue. During their call this week, Šefčovič and Wang have discussed about several sources of growing trade tensions, including China's rare earth export curbs, EU tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, and the Netherlands' seizure of China-owned chipmaker Nexperia. The 17 rare earth elements, out of which 12 of them faces export restrictions, are crucial for manufacturing products such as electric vehicles, aircraft engines and military radars. China produces around 90% of the world's processed rare earths and rare earth magnets. Okay, we are now joined by Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at the Hudson Institute and he joins us live from Tokyo. And we're also joined by Andrew K.P. Leung. He's an independent Chinese strategist and he joins us live from Hong Kong. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here on the program. Pleasure to have you. A lot to unpack there. Let's first of all start with these developments coming out of Kuala Lumpur. These trade talks are well and truly underway. What is most likely to be being discussed top of the agenda, and how likely is it that we are likely to see a breakthrough today, Dr. Nagao?
In this case, of course, rare earth-related issue could be the top priority, because 30% of the parts for the U.S. weapons, for the U.S. military, use made in China parts. So that's why without the cooperation with China, U.S. cannot prepare enough weapon to deal with China. And this is ironical situation, but that is the reality. That's why providing rare earth is a very important part. Just now, even if the U.S. wants to decouple with China in the long run, but just now it is impossible to do that. So in this case, that was revealed in April this year when China tried to restrict exporting rare earths to the other countries, including the United States in this case. And that was clearly revealed to the U.S. government, and the U.S. want to postpone the high tariff against China as a ceasefire of the trade war. And the deadline is coming to the November 1st. So in October, just before the November, China's severe restrictions is imposed. So this was more severe than the April's one. So that's why the U.S. was very frustrated and declared the U.S. will impose 100% of tariff more to China. So it will be the 130% in total. That will come the November 1st. But at the same time, before that deadline, the November 1st, two leaders should meet to deal with this, and the U.S. side want to postpone this battle because U.S. Currently U.S. needs some certain certain part of the supply to their military, to the economy. So it is impossible to decouple just now. This decoupling could be the long-term issue.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Nagao. I want to move to Andrew next. There has been deals, Andrew, that have been spoken about, including resuming the purchases of US soybeans and also curbing the ingredients used to make the opioid fentanyl. What more can you tell us about the possible deals in regards to that?
Important soybeans is a very sore point as far as President Trump is concerned, because the Trump's main supporters, the Republican Party's main supporters, are in those states in the United States, which are Americans' major soybeans and producers, and also other agricultural products. And China has been the largest buyer of vast quantities of these products. But because of the trade war, China has been pivoting towards other countries because soybeans is not really irreplaceable, you see. So China has been buying almost all of the soybeans from Brazil, from Russia, and that, of course, hurts President Trump's prospects in the midterm elections coming up. Now, as far as the rare earths are concerned, because there are other countries producing rare earths, for example, the United States is focusing on Australia, but it's not so much the supply of rare earths, it's the processes. As the processes are highly complicated, highly polluting, and nobody wanted them, and a push on to China decades ago, and China's now mastered the intricacies and the technology producing some of these critical elements. In fact, according to U.S. generals, it would account for even 78% of China's top military hardware, including F-35 fighters. So I think that really China has now got the stranglehold on America's Achilles heel. Now, as to what's going forward, I don't think both sides want a war. Both sides are being hurt by each other's countermeasures. So I think that Trump wants to wrap up all his intended wins. So you're talking about China, you're talking about North Korea, you're talking about even nuclear weapons, fentanyl, all wrapped up in this visit.
Yes.
And I think that on the finance side, Beijing wants some degree of goodwill as well. So, well, let's see. I mean, it's still a lot of the stuff depends on the details.
Yes, thank you very much, gentlemen. Do stay with us. We have further developments. According to reports, a senior US official has said that the United States does not expect China to join the Thai-Cambodia ceasefire event. The official has said that China has played a limited role in the Thailand and Cambodia ceasefire talks and is not expected to participate in a possible weekend event in Malaysia, marking the deal with US President Donald Trump. Trump is expected to witness the signing of a ceasefire deal between the Southeast Asian nations on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur. Meanwhile, Thai Prime Minister Antuan Charnavakural has cancelled his trip to Malaysia ahead of the ASEAN summit due to the death of the kingdom's Queen Mother surrogate. According to reports, China Kirill may also miss the signing of the ceasefire deal with Cambodia. A Thai government spokesperson has said that there would be a discussion on how to proceed with the ceasefire ceremony and whether another official would sign the agreement. Tensions over the unmarked points on the two nations' 817-kilometre land border erupted into a deadly 5-day conflict in July, killing at least 48 and temporarily displacing hundreds of thousands in their worst fighting in more than a decade. Malaysia had brokered an initial ceasefire on July the 28th that ended the clashes after a sustained peace push by Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and telephone calls by Trump to leaders of both nations. We are once again joined by Dr. Nagao and Andrew K.P. Leung. Andrew, I'll start with you this time. What kind of role did China play in this ceasefire, and will China be upset by not being included in this ceremony?
Well, of course, President Trump doesn't want China to be present to steal the thunder, because he wants to monopolize the scene, the rhetoric and the narrative that it was him who brokered the ceasefire. But don't forget where the conflict is. It's right at China's border. So the Beijing must have played a very important role. But of course, this is just a show, and Trump, being the showman par excellence, doesn't want anyone else to steal the thunder. So just understand it. But I think that the Thai-Cambodian border involve a lot of scams, and which are tricking tourists and other innocent people, and China played a great role in smashing these scams. But be that as it may, that's Trump's rhetoric and his narrative. He just wants to monopolize the limelight.
Yes, and Dr. Nagao, of course, geographically, China is much closer to Thailand and Cambodia than the United States is. However, Donald Trump does claim this as one of his 8 wars that he claims to solve. How do you assess China's peacekeeping abilities in East and Southeast Asia?
That is an interesting point. Indeed, China's mediation hasn't contributed so much in any part of the world so far. So that's why in this region, influence of the President Trump's mediation is more influential, I think. And because President Trump has an unpredictable image, and everyone in the world some certain afraid to him. So that's why this is a little bit influential when he intervened negotiation between two countries. But at the same time, this is a very important part of the competition of the great powers. In case of the Thailand and Cambodia, who mediate will decide what will happen after that. Of course, firstly, this is a threat to ASEAN's integrity. So that's why the ASEAN try to mediate both of two. Without this, ASEAN members fight each other, and ASEAN will be collapsed. So in this case, host country is Malaysia, and Malaysia try to intervene. That is first one. And if the Malaysia shows enough presence, ASEAN shows a presence to mediate members of ASEAN, and ASEAN's presence is very important. Secondly, of course, U.S. presence is very important to mediate. U.S. influence towards Southeast Asia rely on their presence. Because, of course, economy, the U.S. and ASEAN trade well, but at the same time, militarily, the U.S. showed more presence. Then in case of the economy, China's presence is growing in ASEAN, so that's why the U.S. need to show more presence than China that is needed. So that's why this time the President Trump joined this mediation, but the Chinese delegation will not join, ASEAN join. Why this combination is important? Because the ASEAN and the US can show the presence, but not China. That is the message that they want to show to the other members of the ASEAN, and not only this, who of the Indo-Pacific, who of the world they want to show. U.S. shows a presence, not China. ASEAN still integrity, but not China. So that's what these are the message, political message they want to show through this, I think.
Yes, Dr. Nagao, Andrew, do stay with us. We now move on to another update. German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul has postponed his trip to China after China has confirmed only one of his requested meetings, highlighting the growing frictions between Europe's and Asia's largest economies over trade and security concerns. The trip, originally scheduled for Sunday, which has been cancelled. A spokesperson for the Foreign Ministry has confirmed it by calling the decision regrettable. It would have marked the first visit to China by a minister from German Chancellor Friedrich Merz's government. The spokesperson has stated that we are postponing the journey to a later time and also highlighted that Germany was concerned about constraints placed on rare earth exports. The only meeting that China had confirmed was with Wadephul's direct counterpart Wang Yi. Since taking office as foreign minister in May, Wadephul has adopted an increasingly hardline position on China, condemning Beijing's backing of Russia's war in Ukraine, its growingly aggressive conduct in the Indo-Pacific, and its export restrictions on rare earths and semiconductors. We're once again joined by Andrew and Dr. Nagao. Andrew, is Wadephul's statements and hardline stance warranted?
Well, all these concerns you rightly mentioned on the part of Germany, of course, very spot on. I mean, but these concerns have long been aired on the German side against China, even before the request for this visit, which came from Germany. Because Germany is now trying to recalibrate its relationship with China, because Germany, like the rest of the European Union, are also suffering from Trump's tariffs stranglehold. And in spite of the traditional, long-established transatlantic alliance, which is now fracturing. So Germany wants to recalibrate the relationship, but why they cancel this trip? And I think that there was also a statement from the German ministry saying that the cancellation is because they couldn't arrange higher level meetings apart from the meeting with Wang Yi, because that's quite possible because the Premier of China, Premier Li Qiang, is currently on visit, I think for Singapore or some ASEAN nations. And of course, Germany wants to send a signal about China's rare earths, stepping up the rare earth control, but I don't think that that's the reason, or even the main reason. I think the main reason could well be that the difficulty of arranging for a higher level visit, but also the advantage of postponing the visit a little bit, just to see what happens between the meeting between President Trump and President Xi. So I think that there is a combination of factors, but there is no doubt that Germany, of course, Germany is not ruled by just this foreign minister alone. It wants to recalibrate its relationship with China. So I don't think that that's a break of intended brokering a more nuanced relationship with China.
Yes, and Dr. Nagao, of course, Beijing, a close ally to Moscow, of course, increasingly concerning behavior in Germany's eyes in the Indo-Pacific. Is Johann Wadephul correct in postponing his visit to China, Dr. Nagao?
In this case, the interesting is China's way of thinking. Originally, China want to avoid to join Russia's aggression to Ukraine or other part of the world. So Russian policy is Russian policy, China's policy is China's policy. But now it looks like China starts to think Russia's aggression is to Ukraine is beneficial for China because U.S. need to deal with Europe means that U.S. cannot focusing on China. So now when China restricts exporting rare earths to the other country, view from the time it looks like this is the part of U.S.-China competition, but the reality is China imposed this restriction not only the United States, but also any part of the world, especially including all Western countries. So now China's way of thinking is not only the United States, but also the other Western country is enemy of China. And when the U.S.-China competition is escalating, this means that not only the U.S., but also U.S. allies are following, and all of them are China's threat. Threat for China, China starts thinking. That kind of the group-based thinking China is thinking. So in this case, Russia is friend, and Western allies, Germany, Japan, or other Europe, also the enemy of China. And so that's why this restriction is imposing not only the United States, but also other countries. So this means that this U.S.-China competition is not a bilateral competition. This is a two-polar competition. That view from this, why the German foreign minister postponed to visit China is understandable. Because if this is bilateral issue, there is no problem between Germany and China. But now this is not a bilateral issue. This is indeed two groups issue. And so German, if German government official visit China, this means that one of the delegation of the group, the China will think. And so that's why the message is different. So that's why if China restricts exporting rare earths, not only the United States, but also the Germany or other US allies, of course, U.S. allies also should react as U.S. side countries. That is the current situation people are thinking. So G7 is cooperating, Western countries cooperating, Quad is cooperating, other part of the cooperating. Why? Because this China also think all of these are the one group and threat against China. And so indeed, view from us, China itself is a threat, but view from China, maybe they also think that these are the one group and enemy of China that they start to think.
Yes. Dr. Satoru Nagao, Andrew K.P. Leung, thank you very much for taking the time and speaking to us. We now move on once again, and China's national legislature on Friday voted to designate October the 25th as the commemoration day of Taiwan's restoration. The decision was adopted as the 5-day session of the Standing Committee of the 14th National People's Congress. The state will hold commemorative activities in various forms. China's designation of October the 25th as the commemoration day of Taiwan's restoration marks the date in 1945 when Japan surrendered control of Taiwan to the Republic of China. On that date in 1945, the ceremony for Japan's surrender and withdrawal from Taiwan occurred in Taipei. Taiwan's government has denounced Beijing's designation of the day, calling it an attempt to fabricate the claim that Taiwan belongs to the PRC. This date also marks competing anniversaries. October the 25th also commemorates the Battle of Guning Tao in 1949, where Taiwan-based KMT troops blocked the People's Liberation Army from landing on the offshore island of Kinmen. This is another significant historical event for Taiwan. We now move over to Southeast Asia, where Thailand is in mourning following the death of Her Majesty the Queen Mother Sirikit, the mother of King Maha Vajiralongkorn, at the age of 93. In a statement released by the Royal Household Bureau, officials have confirmed that Queen Mother Sirikit had been hospitalized since September the 7th of 2019 due to several illnesses. She had developed a bloodstream infection before her condition deteriorated. Flags across Thailand were lowered as the nation paid tribute to a beloved royal figure who brought grace, compassion and modern glamour to the monarchy. Born in 1932, Queen Sirikit Kiminchiyakara became Queen Consort in 1950 after marrying Kim Bimjulabo Abdul Yajej, Thailand's longest reigning monarch. Known worldwide for her elegance and style, Queen Sirikit worked with French designer Pierre Balmain to promote Thai silk, helping to revitalise a national industry and showcase Thai craftsmanship on the global stage. She had also served briefly as regent in 1956 when King Bhumibol entered a Buddhist monastery, a historic first for a modern Thai queen. Queen Sirikit had been out of the public eye since suffering a stroke in 2012. The king has ordered the highest royal funeral honours in accordance with tradition. Her Majesty's remains will be enshrined at the Dunst Mahaprast Throne Hall in the Grand Palace. Members of the royal family and court officials will observe a one-year mourning period. Now that's a wrap on the China report. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.